I'm Greg Boston, County, and my experience was a little different. So let me just give you a little bit of background. What I'm going to talk about is a little bit more drilling down into the issues of the types of assessments and some of the things that came up for me. Let me just give you a very quick background. When I first got interested into distance learning and joined the Yale committee, I had at that time already been working on a self-study basic accounting book that we were going to use for online basic accounting, purely online. By the way, I should maybe just go over that real briefly for some people. You know, there's like three choices. You know, you can do, as far as setting up a course that is related to online, you can do purely online, which is like, you know, they show up for orientation, and that's it. You don't see anything except maybe a telephone call or some emails. And that has its own issues as far as assessment goes. Then there's, I think that's the most difficult one to probably set up. For someone who's going to do it for the first time, I mean, it's doable because we've all done it. It's, you know, I'm not saying that it's not doable, but it's probably a little more difficult because there's a few more issues involved. I think probably to sort of get your feet wet and start with online, to me anyway, web enhanced is probably the easiest. And my interpretation of web enhanced is that, you know, you're offering a regular class, it meets in a classroom like this, but you do things online to make it more interesting and fun. There's some assessments, which I do in some of my regular classes. So that would be web enhanced. Then there's kind of a middle ground, which I don't even exactly remember the definition for, hybrid. And I think that depends on the number of in-class meetings versus online. Do you remember what that is? Anybody?
Yeah.
Can maybe read the exact definition of hybrid?
51%.
Is it 51%? Now we went around and around to define that. We spent a lot, but at 51% online.
Well, 51% or more online is an online class.
Right.
Our
Okay.
district has not yet negotiated anything called hybrid. It doesn't exist in our district. It exists in the world, but it doesn't exist in our district at this time because it affects our workload. It's a negotiated item. So right now we have face-to-face classes and online classes.
But we have
Is that why you seem to use the word hybrid in the beginning? You said web enhanced. Okay.
Well,
because it is a political.
Well, yeah. Hybrid is technically how much you do with each one. And I guess we don't even need to talk about that seriously right now. I guess Marcia is having convulsions back there. But hybrid, in case you do some online research, you go to the schools, talk to other people, hybrid does exist out there a lot in the world. So just bring that up. So anyway, I guess what I would be saying is that for a lot of people starting, I think maybe web enhanced is a good way to check it all out. Okay, you can use Angel. Okay, so anyway, that's just to get the definition straight. So my experience is that I was working on this great idea, and I had developed this, just about finished developing this book for first semester introductory basic accounting, 100% online except for the orientation. And not knowing really 100% what I was doing, I found out at that time we were using Blackboard. We hadn't gotten to Angel yet. And so I just assumed that I would be able to do all the kinds of assessments that I wanted to online. And to my shock, surprise, and horror, it turns out, excuse me, that Blackboard and Angel too. But at that time, Blackboard could only do multiple choice, fill in, true false. Those were the basic three. So in accounting, and I don't know, this may be true for some of your classes, this may not be true for others, but we need stuff, I mean, if we're going to do a really credible job and really test the students like we need to be tested, we need to have questions formatted like things that are called ledgers and journals, maybe journal entries and debits and credits, and I mean, that's what, you know, if you're going to do a credible job. Worksheets, where you can develop a worksheet and plug in numbers. And so, but it was too late, I was stuck. So I developed my own database of questions. That was the best I could do, but I couldn't use these. I was confined to the types that were being offered. And this is still true of Angel. So I was sort of faced with a dilemma. I really was interested in doing something comprehensive. So my choices were stay with Blackboard and limit myself to those kinds of questions, or number two, use publishers' materials. Now, publishers at that time were starting to develop these other types of questions, which they had gone on to do, and they're great. But that sort of connects with another issue that I have, and that is the cost of textbooks. Since I've been here, which I know is a long time now, but I would say the cost of our course materials in our basic accounting class have probably tripled. So that's an issue that gets to me. So thought, well, geez, if I force the students to go to the publishers, they're developing this kind of stuff. They'll be able to use it, but they're going to be paying probably $150 or more for all the course materials. So the long and the short of it is, I thought, well, okay, I'll just go for it. And I took the book that I was working on and revised it into a bigger, more comprehensive introductory textbook. But I also, and this is what you're interested in, but I also developed my own database of questions. So that was what I'm talking about, is that it is possible for you, if you want to do this, to kind of finesse Blackboard or Angel now. Develop your own database of questions. It's doable. I can't talk about all the issues right here, but you can see me afterwards, and I can go over some of the details and how it's done and what the issues are. I think for most of you, I did it in kind of a different way. I did it myself. I developed it. I used my own money because I could recover my costs through the book. For most of you, I think what you wanted to do is probably use grant money. So with a combination of grant money and what I could maybe help you with after the meeting here is that you could develop, if you are in a situation where you have types of questions that Angel can't handle, that is developable, and doable. So that was my experience. Now, as far as the assessment procedures, I did kind of what you saw in the first presentation. Let me just go over a little bit the web enhanced. I teach a couple of sections of basic accounting. It's like everybody shows up twice a week or once a week, open the book, do the regular in-class thing. But I have online practice quizzes. So what I require them to do is every week, they have to go to this database of questions, which I can show you. They get to take practice quizzes as many times as they want, over and over and over. Now, one of the issues that I forgot to mention is I wanted the questions to be algorithmic based. I don't want them to see exactly the same question over and over, unless it's a kind of question I want them to memorize. So because these questions are algorithmically based, they can practice as much as they want, and they love it. They really like that because they sort of begin to understand, geez, quizzes can be a learning tool as well as an assessment tool. Some of you know that already because we used to ask some practice quizzes. So the procedure that I use is that we go in windows of learning goals, and during that week, we do our in-class thing. I do the lecture, we work in class, the usual stuff. But when they go home, they have to take practice quizzes, and then when they're ready to take the practice quiz, they can take the graded quiz. And that happens automatically, because what goes with this is an electronic gradebook. It's very similar to Angel, and you can drop quizzes and all that kind of stuff. And it's automatically recorded. Oh, that brings up one thing. I'm not of the school, this is just my preference. I don't like to see the grade A, B, C, D generated automatically. I don't like that. I would just rather see the total number of points and then take the time and look at it over. Now, many people disagree with that, but I sort of do the fudge factor thing too. And so I just like to have that freedom to, so I just didn't set it up that way. That's just my preference. So,